Good morning, everybody. Hopefully the conference has been well to you. My name is Scott. I'm a product manager with the Navigator team, joined today with Joel and Mark.
Hi guys, I'm a product engineer, work on Navigator and Explorer.
Yeah, and I'm Mark Bockenhauer. Joel and I will be sharing a mic today, so this will be a lot of fun. No, I'm just joking, we'll do fine. But I work with Navigator, a longtime Esri employee, and lots of projects, and excited to show you what we can do with Navigator and a little bit of ArcGIS Pro today.
Just quickly, who uses Navigator today? Anybody? Looks like this will be pretty new to most of us. So today we'll go through a few slides, see some demos, demos, just kind of break into, what is Navigator all about? And we all know what a navigation app does, right? How and why is Esri's Navigator different? Well, it kind of comes down to these things here that we see. Custom data. So it allows you to use your organizational's authoritative GIS data within the navigation app itself. And by data, what do I mean? The searching content. So you can use your own geocoding locators. The routing content. So you can use your own network data set. And the display component. And we'll probably be coming back to these three capabilities, search, route, and display. So display meaning that you can view your own assets on the map. It's integrated with other apps. That's Esri's field apps, like Collector, like Workforce, or your own apps. You can integrate your own custom apps with it. Disconnected, all the data stores on the device. So once that map is on the device, you don't have to worry about a cellular data connection. And travel modes. This is part of the map creation process. So if you have specific rules of the road that you want to model for your vehicle type, you can do that with Navigator. So what happened since last year at the UC and this year? What's new is Android's in final. Last year we came and had Android in beta. Now it's final. It's out there. It's released. We've made the custom map creation process a lot easier and improved on that process within ArcGIS Pro. Later in the presentation, Mark will walk us through this custom map creation process, but we've really tried to streamline that and make it a little bit more simple. And global map coverage. So is anybody outside of the US? Looks like we're all domestic here in the US, but now Navigator supports global content. So when you get Navigator, not only do you get the app, but you also get access to our library of maps. Today, Navigator's used, we have thousands of licenses out there in the field. There's hundreds of organizations that use it today. And these organizations are in natural resources, utilities, government, and the commercial sector. Two examples, the County of Pima, Arizona, they're using it to do building inspections, and they're saving about $200,000 a year by doing this. The County of Atlantic, New Jersey, they are also using Navigator and integrating into their back office network analyst optimization. They're saying that it allows them to have fewer service calls come into their call center and allows essentially any driver to do any route. So they don't have to have that special domain knowledge of a particular area. So with that, let's just forget about Scott doing slides. Let's actually see some demo. And I think Joel will walk us through just some basics.
All right, thanks, Scott. All right, so as Scott mentioned, all the maps that you are going to be using with Navigator will live on the device. When you sign into Navigator, you're not going to have any maps downloaded to start with, obviously. So Navigator will prompt you that you need to download a map to begin using the app. This will bring you to this select map screen. Now in this view, you'll see all the maps that you have access to, and these will be mobile map packages that have a transportation network and a locator built into them. Now these could be maybe maps that you have created yourself in ArcGIS Pro, or they could be something that someone in your organization created and then shared with you. You'll also be able to see any public maps that are available. And looking at this view, you notice a few of those thumbnails have the Navigator icon in them. And those are Navigator maps that you get with the Navigator license. And as Scott mentioned, there's global coverage. So once you download this app and sign in, you'll be able to start using the app right out of the box. So you can go ahead and you can filter these maps, just start typing, and the list will start getting shorter for you. Or you can just go ahead and start scrolling. You'll notice that it says Maps for My Location at the top. And Navigator will actually group the maps into 2 sections for you, Maps for My Location, and then obviously other maps. And what will happen is when you first launch Navigator, it will acquire your location, and then basically just show you all the maps that are relevant to you so you can kind of filter out all the other noise. Downloading the maps is pretty easy. You can tap on one, or you can tap on multiple map cards, and then select Download. This will bring you to this Maps view, which will show you all the maps that are living on your device. And now that you can see that I selected those maps to download, you have the download progress indicator showing you how far along the download has gone. I'm actually going to go ahead and cancel these downloads. I didn't really want to rely on the internet for this demo, so I downloaded the ones I needed ahead of time. The great thing about these mobile map packages is once they're on the device, you can work completely offline and you don't need an internet connection. So I can actually go ahead, open up this California map, and you'll see if I zoom out, well actually first let me go into airplane mode. Now I'm truly offline. And I can actually still zoom out, view all this data that's been configured into this map. And you see, it takes me a while here, but I have the entire state of California. And I'm able to search for locations within that map because it has a USA locator built into it. Or I can just drop a pin and navigate across the state of California if I'd like. So let's go ahead and zoom back into our location down here in San Diego. And once I'm on this screen and the map is open, planning the route is really simple. I can either drop a pin or search for a location like I mentioned before. So let's create a simple route just by dropping a pin. And all I need to do is long press on the screen and you'll see that pin is dropped. I now have that details card on the bottom of the screen with the option to route to. Tap on that route to button and then now I'm on the summary screen which shows me some information about the route that I just created. And I'll be going from my current location to the address of the drop pin. If I want to add another destination, I can just tap on that little plus icon, and then I can, again, either drop a pin or search for a location. So this time, let's just start typing in a location. And you'll notice I'm starting to get suggestions coming back to me. And this is actually coming back from the locator that was built into this mobile map package. So I'm not using any internet connection here. All that data is living within the map. I can easily add that destination that I just searched for into the route, and now I'm going from my current location to multiple destinations. You also see some other options on this screen. In the bottom left, I have this directions list button. I can open that up, and I can actually view each maneuver that I'll be making during this route. On the bottom right, I have this travel mode button. I can open that up and I can change between some of the travel modes that have been created in this transportation network. If you're building your own mobile map package from scratch, you could actually author your own travel mode based on a specific vehicle type. And then when you select that for navigation, it will follow those rules that you defined when you're traversing the network. So I can actually just start navigation here.
Starting route to Children's Museum. Go northwest on East Harbor Drive toward Convention Center Court. In 800 feet, turn right on First Avenue.
She's hard to interrupt, but you'll start getting that nice turn-by-turn directions. And then I'll probably get another one here pretty shortly to give me a little heads up that I'm going to be making a maneuver shortly. So you'll get 2 prompts, a heads up one and then one when you're actually making the maneuver. You can also see the distance and time badges are being updated.
Turn right on First Avenue.
And then if I need to, I still have access to that directions list. So if I need to pull over in a safe location.
Destination in 230 feet.
She's going to give you a arrival prompt right here.
You have arrived at drop pin on your right. Go north on First Avenue.
So if I need to, I can still
Turn
open up
left
that
on West
directions
Island
list
Avenue.
and see the maneuvers that I have left in my route. So while this is finishing, I'll just end it because she's going to talk over me. So just to give you a quick summary, what I showed you is I showed you how you could search and find maps that you have access to, how you could download those maps, and then how you could create a simple route in Navigator so you can get turn-by-turn directions in an offline setting. So now I will pass it back to you, Scott.
All right, thank you, Joel. Great. So a little demo, hopefully gets you the idea for what Navigator is. It's a navigation app, right? We talked about the differentiators of what makes it different. We said that Navigator comes with content. When you get Navigator, you get the app, but you also get the access to our library of navigation maps. By show of hands, it seemed like everybody's here in the U.S., and it's worth noting that for the U.S., you have state packages. We saw Joel use the California map. We also have region packages, so he could have downloaded the Western United States if your organization operates across state boundaries. Those maps come from ArcGIS Online. When Joel was in the Navigator app, he showed us how he used the browse capability to search maps, and those were actually hosted in ArcGIS Online. Navigator searches in ArcGIS Online, and you just simply download it to the device. Many of you may deploy Portal or ArcGIS Enterprise, the on-premises version of ArcGIS Online. Navigator is supported with ArcGIS Enterprise. To do that, there's just one extra configuration step. You need to get the navigation maps from Esri, and as an administrator of your organization, you need to register those maps with ArcGIS Enterprise. Once you do that, it'll just behave exactly the same to the Navigator end users as if you were logging into ArcGIS Online. So, but obviously with the difference being you have to register those maps for them to appear to the Navigator end user to download. Navigator maps are updated 3 times a year in North America, twice a year in Europe, and once a year everywhere else. When those maps get updated, this is the message and the notification that you'll see. As an end user, you'll see, hey, there's a new map out there. Let's get the freshest, latest, and greatest content. Some of the conversations, troubleshooting, tech support, this is the number one most common support issue. And it's just simply a licensing problem, I suppose. And it's not realizing that your administrator of your ArcGIS Online organization or of your ArcGIS Enterprise organization, they need to assign your end users the Navigator license. You can kind of think of it as just an extension. You may be used to using ArcGIS Online and Enterprise to allocate Pro licenses and Pro extensions. There's that additional products tab within the administrator and licensing interface, and you just simply need to assign the Navigator license to those individual users. In the intro, we had said that Navigator works with other apps, and that's one of the most powerful things about the Esri field apps is they kind of piggyback on top of each other, and they take advantage of those capabilities and really support workflows. And that's where not only Navigator but all the Esri field apps excel, leveraging each other's capabilities. And that's how we've designed the applications to interact with each other. Each app designed to do something well and do something specific, and not overwhelm end users with too many buttons and trying to recreate ArcMap in a mobile device. And this image, this apps wheel, is what we call apps for the field. So Navigator integrates with Workforce, with Collector, and another field app, Explorer. Explorer is I think it's the newest field app to the family, and Navigator integrates nicely with Explorer for ArcGIS. So I think next, Joel is actually going to walk us through a demonstration of how apps for the field, and specifically using Explorer, can be used.
Sure. Thank you, Scott. So right now I have Explorer open. Explorer for ArcGIS is our solution, a map viewing application for the mobile platform. If you'd like to find out more about that, we'll have, I think you have it in the resources slide at the end, but there'll be, I'll be doing a demo theater later this afternoon, and actually Brent in the audience there will be doing a tech session as well. Is that at 4 o'clock?
It's 1:30.
1:30. All right, right after lunch. Okay, so as Scott mentioned, app integration is a really powerful way for you to transition seamlessly between applications in the field apps ecosystem. One of the common ways I've seen or heard of users using this is using Workforce to delegate assignments to workers. The workers in the field will get updates on their phone with a list of assignments that they have to accomplish for the day. They can then open those assignments and then easily navigate to those assignments by using Navigator. Once they arrive at that destination, Navigator will automatically bring them back to the workforce, which they can then complete their assignment and submit it to the back office. The other way, which is new with the new version of Explorer for ArcGIS, version 17.1.0, which was just released a couple days ago, and so you can download that right now, is using Explorer to view detailed information about your maps and then search for features within those maps. And then you can also navigate to those using Navigator. Once you arrive at those destinations, I'm also going to show you a new tool that we put in this new version of Explorer, which is the compass tool. And this tool allows you to navigate as a crow flies to some feature that may be off a transportation network. So this could be really useful if you still want help getting somewhere, but you don't have a transportation network in the map, or it's off the network, such as like in the woods or in some field. So in this demo, I will be showing you, I'll be talking in the context of a city worker for San Diego responding to the report of some tree damage, we'll say. So I have this map open in Explorer. You can see it has some trees, a tree layer in there. If I want, I can tap on one of these trees and get some information about that tree. But I can also search for the tree. So I can actually just go ahead, type the tree ID, and I'll see the tree is returned to me. So I can open up that panel and view some information about that item. And I have some actions down at the bottom as well, such as directions and the compass mode I talked to. So I actually want to go ahead and I'll tap that directions button, and it will prompt me which navigation app I'd like to use. In this case, I want to use Navigator. This will send over the location of the feature to Navigator and generate the route for me. So you'll see I'm going from my current location to that tree ID I just searched for. I can go ahead.
Starting route to T0787. Go northwest on East Harbor Drive toward Convention Center Court. In 800 feet, turn right on First Avenue.
You can hear that nice audio prompt giving you the turn-by-turn directions that we heard before. You'll see you get the same experience that I showed you in the basics demo with the audio prompts, the distance and time badges being updated. But the difference you'll see here is using this app integration. Once this route actually finishes, it will automatically kick me back to Explorer so I can continue where I left off and continue doing my work. So once we arrive here, it will open me back to Explorer, and I'll be looking at that details panel that I showed you before. All right, so now I was able to navigate to the park, but I actually had to end up parking on the opposite side of the park. And there's a lot of obstructions in my way for getting to that feature, so I want a little help getting the rest of the way. I can actually just go ahead and tap on this compass tool, and it will draw a line between my current location and the feature on the map. You also see in the top there is the bearing I'm heading as well as the distance to that feature. So I can kind of just walk in the general direction of that destination, occasionally looking at my phone to make sure I'm not going to walk off a cliff or that I'm still heading in the right direction. So just to give you a quick summary of what I showed you the power of the app integration, how you could use Explorer to view detailed information about your maps and search for features, and then how you could use Navigator to do the route computation, give you the turn-by-turn directions, and then finally, the new compass mode in the new version of Explorer. And you might have noticed I'm still offline in airplane mode, so I did all of that with 0 internet connection. Pass it back to Scott.
Thank you, Joel. Okay, great demo. So we saw how all the other field apps, Workforce, Explorer, Collector, they work together, right? And you can call back and forth and work seamlessly between each other. And the apps integrate. So Navigator not only integrates with other ArcGIS field apps, but you can integrate with your own apps or integrate Navigator with, for example, your back office. And you do this by using what we call a URL scheme. Sometimes we refer to it as an app link. And essentially what a URL scheme is a stop list. It's a stop list formatted in a particular way. It could have things in there like the stop name, the sequence, travel mode. And this is what's used actually within our own field apps to communicate back and forth between each other. This is the details. These are the details, the different parameters of what's supported in that URL scheme or that app link. This link at the bottom, this GitHub repository, has full documentation for all of this. But again, if you have, say, a custom app, or well, I'll get to that in a minute. But there's things like start location, all the stops, whether it's one stop or many stops. The location can be a lat long. The location can be an address. So we support both. Actually, the callback. So you remember when Joel went from Explorer to Navigator, it called back automatically to Explorer. You can have your custom app integration call back to your origination app. The optimization parameter, that's whether or not you want Navigator to reorder or resequence the stops for you in the most cost-effective way. And travel mode, that's optional too. So how would you deploy, or how would you, what are the options for that URL scheme and app link? These are some common patterns that we've seen taking place at customer and organization sites. Some host their own web page, so they format their stops in the URL scheme, and they put them on a web page. At the beginning of each day, the inspector goes to that web page, they click on the link, and it ingests and pulls down the stops into Navigator, and they are ready to go. You can email them or text message them that link. Maybe you email or send them an attachment, and inside that PDF, for example, there might be a link. And then, of course, the custom app integration. If you say have like a native runtime application or other, that's how you can integrate. Joel, I think you're going to walk us through what this looks like in the real world, huh?
Yeah, you bet.
All right.
Okay, so as Scott mentioned, the app integration we showed you before is essentially just accomplished by using these URL schemes, and this is pretty exciting because it means that you can use these URL schemes in your own custom applications to integrate with our apps, or you can use them, as Scott mentioned, as maybe a standalone URL, such as a hyperlink in a web map or mobile map package pop-up, or maybe in an email as a hyperlink, or embedded in some sort of HTML web page or a PDF. And another cool way you can do it is by using QR codes. So you can actually encode the URL into a QR code and then scan that QR code with maybe a third-party app, or in iOS 11, it'll actually be a native function of the camera app to be able to scan these application launching QR codes. So what I'll do is I'll show you this PDF I have. And I will be talking in the context of a worker for the County of San Diego, Department of Environmental Health. And my job is to go around and do restaurant inspections, just checking for compliance. And this is a PDF that my manager sends me. So he basically creates my routes every week. He'll create me daily routes and then embed the URL in these QR codes. And my manager, Francis, he actually puts hyperlinks in this PDF as well. So I can open this PDF in my mail client, and I can simply tap on one of these QR codes and it will launch Navigator with the pre-configured route. But I'm pretty old school, as you could probably tell. So I actually want to print this PDF off and bring it with me into the truck. I work in zero connectivity environments quite often, and I don't want to have to rely on being able to pull up that PDF to get my routes for the day. So what I'm going to do is I'll switch to another application I have for scanning QR codes. And you can see I have the same PDF here on the table. And what I can do is I can just go up and scan my route for the day. We'll say today's Monday. And I can scan it. And you can see at the bottom, you now have this, I don't know how visible that is to you guys out there. But you have this QR code at the bottom of the screen. It has the application schema, which is ArcGIS-Navigator, followed by a number of stops that have been configured into that URL. All I have to do is tap on that URL, and it will load the route into Navigator for me. Now I can just start navigating, and I don't have to worry about how I'm going to get to all these destinations that my manager has given me for the day. I can easily just tap on that link and let Navigator do the work for me. So just to summarize what I just showed you, I showed you the power of app integration using the URL schemes. We talked about how you could then integrate your own custom applications with our applications using that URL scheme, or use them in a standalone workflow. And I showed you a quick example of how you could launch Navigator for ArcGIS using these QR codes that have the URLs embedded into them. So with that, pass it back to you, Scott.
Thank you. Nice. Okay. So let's transition a little bit and talk about the Navigator maps themselves. And we'll start talking about custom navigation maps. So what is a Navigator map? What the heck is this thing? So it's created in ArcGIS Pro. Well, first off, you can use the Esri provided Navigator maps, or you can create your own. If you create your own, you will do that within ArcGIS Pro. And there are the three components to a Navigator map. The search capability, which is geocoding locators. You need locators. There's the route capability, which is delivered through a network data set. A network data set also models those rules of the roads within a travel mode. That's where you specify the walking, driving an 18-foot 4-axle vehicle, or just a standard, Civic or a F-150, like a typical vehicle. And then there's that third component, the map display. And that map display is base maps, pretty straightforward, but also operational layers. These are the layers that you want to manage and maintain: fire hydrants, trees, things that you want your infrastructure to be seen with on the map. And in Pro, we package this all up within a file called the mobile map package. And a mobile map package, you can think of it as a container, and it's just a file format, essentially. This is essentially the workflow that we're looking at. Within ArcGIS Pro, we said that we package up those three map capabilities within a MMPK file, and then we need to get that to the Navigator users. How do we get it to the Navigator users? We share it. We share it to our ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Online, our ArcGIS Enterprise organization. Once it's up there, the Navigator users can see it and download it. So we said that you can use the Esri provided navigation map or create your own. If you create your own, you can create a map out of all your own data. You have your own locators, you have your own network, you have your own base map. Cool, you're set. But what if you don't have all of that content, but you still want to create a navigation map? There's also the option to do like a hybrid approach. So you could use the Esri Navigator map and enhance it or modify it, add to it. Add your own locators, add your own operational layers, maybe swap out the network, up to you. And to do that within ArcGIS Pro, it requires a StreetMap Premium license. To use the content in desktop, you need a license in desktop to use that, and that's what StreetMap Premium is. So I think next, Mark is going to walk us through custom map creation within ArcGIS Pro and some of those examples.
All right, thanks, Scott. Number one.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so we're going to start out here with ArcGIS Pro. So how many ArcGIS Pro users do we have in the room? Has everybody taken a look at it? Okay, a couple people. Very similar to ArcMap in some respects as far as the cartography and making a map. And so what I'm taking on the role of, I'm going to make the map for my field workers, and I want it to have the information that they need to get their job done. So as Joel demonstrated earlier, he was using the California map, and that was just kind of the generic, not generic, but it's a navigation map from Esri. Has all of the streets in it, all the roads, places to get to. But I'd like to see some of my data on that map so that it gives my people a little more context for the work that they do. So as you saw Joel demonstrate earlier, he was using an Explorer map. That was a mobile map package and had trees on it, had a little more information about San Diego. Well, I'd like to start by adding that information to the California map. So as Scott mentioned, having a Street Map Premium license, I have access to all of those Navigator maps that Joel showed you available on ArcGIS Online. I can go grab those maps and open them up in Pro. So I'm going to start out, I've got ArcGIS Pro. I've kind of cheated a little bit because I've already downloaded the map and have it, but we're going to go through the process of what you would do. So you start up Pro with your empty project, and in the catalog pane, I click on Portal, and then I have options for My Maps, Groups, and then I want all the maps shared on ArcGIS Online. So I click on Portal, and I can go ahead and search for maps. So I'm going to search for California and navigation. And I'll hit Return. And this is going to return back all the maps that meet that search criteria. And if we see at the top, we've got these icons for mobile map packages. And if I hover over them, I see this same orange icon here for the California map. That lets me know right off that this is an Esri map. And this is a good one to start with. So I can just right-click on this, and I can just add and open that map in ArcGIS Pro. And once I do that, I'll get this navigation day map that shows up by default. And there's a street map, day map in there as well. So flip over to that. And so this is where we first introduced a little bit more about this mobile map package. A mobile map package, as Scott mentioned, is a container. It can have multiple maps inside of it. What you need to know for your Navigator users is that Navigator only uses one map. So if there's multiple maps in the package, it only has access to the first map that's in the package. So Navigator is not the only user of mobile map packages. If the navigation team had its druthers, it'd probably say, no, we only want one map in there. But Pro wants to have multiple maps in there. And you'll want to have them too as far as in the scope of your projects. So if you look at these two maps, I've got Street Map Day and I've got Navigation Day. You'll notice right away that these labels and symbols change in size. And so one of the things that you want to keep in mind when creating a map for Navigator, because you're on a higher resolution display on the phone, in the case of Navigator, you'll want to use larger symbology sets so that the things aren't too small for your users. And I've heard this a lot too from people I've talked to that are sending out their field workers. A lot of them should wear glasses and don't wear glasses and all kinds of other things like that. And typically, they want things bigger than the people who are making the maps on the Desktop Pro. So just keep that in mind that you can upsize those symbols. But anyway, I've got this mobile map package to start with, and what I want to do is create that map that Joel was showing us. So what I want to do is zoom into this San Diego area down here, and I want to add in some content. So I'm going to add in some operational layers to this map. So I'll go ahead, add some data, and I've got a few layers ready already. So I'll just grab in this area, the commercial layers, and some trees. I'll go ahead and add those in, and we'll see those added into our map. And they have scale dependency on them, so I'll need to zoom in to actually see them. And we see those trees come on there at the appropriate scale. Navigator honors all of the symbology and scaling that you build into your map. And so you can keep that in mind. And basically, you want to have, maybe when you're out far like this, they just want to see the names of places so they can get their location. And then once they're zoomed in, they want the detail of those trees and assets for the routing that they're going to do. If I bring your attention over to the left to the table of contents, you'll see that I've got Navigation Day base map in here. So these are all my base map layers. And then I've added in the operational layers on the top. And we'll talk about that a little later in more detail, but I just wanted to point that out to you right now. So at this point, I've got the trees on my map, so that's really nice. I've got some other assets that help people do those restaurant inspections. So I want to get this out to my users as a navigation map. Well, one of the things that they want to be able to do is they want to be able to search for things in the Navigator map. Just as you saw Joel search for the trees, we want to search for those trees right within Navigator. So what I want to do is build a locator for this map. And to do that, I use a geoprocessing tool. So if I go to the Analysis tab, we have a toolbox. This toolbox will open up my geoprocessing pane. And from there, I can search for tools. And the tool I'm going to search for is Create Address Locator. And this is a tool that we use to make our features searchable within Navigator. So this tool initialized. Right now it's going through and reading through the layers in my map. And it just takes a moment to open up here. And once it comes up, I can choose the locator that I want to use. How many people have created locators? Anybody use locators? Got a couple? All right. So, all right, let's go through here. There are a variety of locators that you can choose. Typically, in the Navigator use cases, we're looking for unique assets. So it's a kind of a singular feature type. And locator types that are good for that are the general gazetteer and the single field locator. This is when you have unique items, so like a hydrant ID, a tree ID, unique assets. So we'll go ahead with this gazetteer locator, click on that, and initialize. And then we'll just choose a layer from our map. And I'm going to choose that tree layer. And once I do that, I can go through, choose the name that I want, the searchable thing. And so for this, I'm going to use the tree ID. And that's how my organization works. So we'll go ahead, capture tree ID. And then users will be able to type in the tree ID and find it on the map. And then we'll see if there are a variety of other fields I can fill out here. And if you do fill them out, when you go to the details page of that search item, you'll see those things listed. But one that I want to point out to you is the full address field here. Let's see, where is that? Okay, right here, full address. On the map, the initial map card, when you do the search, you saw that little card, if you remember at the bottom. It shows you the ID that you searched for, but then it gives another second line of information, which is the address. Well, my trees don't really have addresses, but it might be helpful to add in another attribute for my user. So for full address, I can put in the actual common name for that tree. And so I've got the tree ID and the common name, and that way when my worker goes to inspect the tree, they've got the tree ID, they get into the area, and they can say, okay, well, here's a tree. They look and see the species of the tree, and they're like, whoa, that's not the right species, so this must not be the right tree. It must be this one right next to it, potentially, right? So just a little more added information for your users and field workers. As Joel also mentioned, there were suggestions that come up. As you start typing, it starts giving you items that you can find. And we enable that right here with this checkbox, enable suggestions. So then I just go ahead, run the create address locator tool, and that's going to create a locator for this map. So I'll go ahead, click run, and this is going to go through all of those tree features in my map and create the locator for it. And when you hover over, you see the summary of what the tool's doing and what it's up to. All of these tools can be used in Python too. So if you want to automate a process of doing everything that I'm showing you here as far as creating updated address locators as your features change, and ultimately creating the mobile map package, which I'm going to show you next. So create mobile map package is another geoprocessing tool, so I'm going to open another tool. The nice thing about this hamburger menu here, when I open tools from it, you can see that there's a 1. So in the process, a lot of times you'll kind of go back and forth between tools like create address locator, and it's very handy to do that switching. So I'm going to go ahead, get the create mobile map package tool. And we'll click on create mobile map package. The tool will initialize to all of the maps in my project. And it takes a little while as it analyzes all of the layers. Part of what it's doing, the create mobile map package tool, mobile map packages don't support all content that you can possibly put into a Pro project. So right now it's doing some of the work of analyzing the map to know if I have any layers that aren't appropriate for packaging in each map. And we can talk a little bit about size too. The Navigator maps are built from world scale down to 2.5K scale. So there's a lot of roads and a lot of road network layers in there. And this map is something that, for all of you that have worked with Esri for years and you've had large maps, and Esri's always said, oh, don't make large maps. This map has 155 layers in it, so we're breaking our own suggestions to accomplish this world transportation network. It's a fairly complex map. But anyway, when I open up the Create Mobile Map Package tool here, we see that it automatically will take my default map as the input map. I choose an output file location for this map, so I'll go ahead and just give it an output name, San Diego trees. And then next, I can add in the locator. So when I create a locator in a project, all of these tools will automatically pick up things that I've created. So I just created this locator a moment ago. It's available for me to use. You'll also see that there's a USA locator here. So the locator that was in the mobile map package that we downloaded is also available to us. We can choose to include that back into the package that we create so that our workers can not only look for trees, but they can look for that general USA gazetteer, POIs, addresses, and places if we want them to. I'll just go ahead and click this tree one, and if I want, I can add another one. So if you've got multiple feature sets, you just make locators for each one and just add them all up into the package as you go. Once we've done that, my data, if I look here, is really just for the San Diego area, but I've got the whole state of California here. This whole state of California map is 2 gigabytes. So that's just something to keep in mind too, file sizes. I always get that question. Since my users only work in the downtown San Diego area, I don't really want to give them all of California. They're just going to be mad at me for filling up their phone with this big map. So what I can do is just zoom into my area of interest, and right within the Create Mobile Map Package tool, I have clipping options. So I can go ahead and clip by a specific feature layer, or I can go ahead and just do my current display extent. So if I click this, it gets my current display extent in there, and I can just go ahead and package it. So next, we've got the information about the map, the metadata to a degree. So there's this thing called a title. So you'll notice up above, I've named this map. It's going to create this MMPK file name. And that MMPK file name can't have any spaces in it. It's a file, and it's going to be shared and uploaded to ArcGIS Online. The title is the name of the map that my users are going to see when they're working with it in Navigator. But as Joel showed earlier, one of the first things that they do is they search for a map to open. So we want that name to be very close. Basically, we want it to be the exact same as the file that we created, but we can put spaces in the title and make it just look a little nicer that way. And that'll help people find the map and then see the map and recognize it on their device. So you just go through, you set the title, and go ahead, you click run, and that'll create the mobile map package and write it out to a place on disk. I'm not going to do that right now because it is a process. This is something that you'll click this button and then find something else to do for a little while. It does take, depending on your size of area and how many layers you have in the map, it's all variable on that. But doing something like this probably take around 11 minutes for it to complete. So I'm not going to do that right now. But then once that mobile map package is created, I want to share it with my users. And to do that, it's just another tool. So I open another tool, and that's the Share Package tool. So I just type in Share Package, and this is just an uploader. I just go out, browse to where I created that mobile map package. I can put in some metadata information, summary, what it's for, tag it, and then importantly, choose who I want to share it with. I can share it with everyone, share it with specific groups that I'm a member of, or just share it within my organization. I then run the sharing tool. It uploads it to ArcGIS Online or your portal, and at that point, my workers have access to it, and they can grab the map. And maybe we'd like to take a look at that right now, Joel. So you've got that map on the device, and we can just take a look at a tree.
Yeah, so I kind of showed that map earlier in Explorer, but this is essentially the map that Mark just created in Navigator. You can see that it has all those trees in there. And since he had that locator in there, I can start typing in for that same tree I used feature search for in Explorer. I can use the locator search in Navigator to find that tree. And you see it got that Torrey pine tree right there. So then I can navigate to that.
All right, thanks, Joel. So there's that example. That's how your map turns into a Navigator map from ArcGIS Pro. So that's the kind of the phase one easiest level of interaction. It's like I'm happy with the network data set that Esri provides, and I've got my assets that I just add to it, and then I use that network and I get along it. But what happens if the network doesn't go where I want to go? So I've got maybe a private field with private roads with a bunch of assets out there, and those roads are not in a commercial data set. They're unknown, they're private. You do have the opportunity to add those roads to the Navigator map and take it to the next level, which is to make these navigations. You might have trails, you could have anything that you want people to know about as a way to go. So let's take a look at how that would work. So to do that, we can't use the Navigator maps. The Navigator maps don't allow you to modify the geometry of those existing maps. We can just add stuff to them, but we can't modify what's there. So if we want to do a modification, we need to use the StreetMap Premium data set. So with the StreetMap Premium license, you have access to data from all over the world in a file geodatabase format, basically. So I'm going to switch gears here and go to another project and try to remember which one it is here. And I'm going to open up this one here. So this one here is not a mobile map package. It is the source for that mobile map package that you saw. So all of the data that Esri used to create the mobile map package that come with Navigator, those things are available to you. Should have turned off my messaging. Are available to you as well. So you can create your own maps. So all of the, okay, let me back up a second, a little just distracted. But the mobile map packages, that source data, you have access to it. So everything that you saw, that California map, you can have all the raw geodatabase data to work with. And that's what I have here. I have a section of it. And this section that I have here is actually the tutorial data for creating your own map with Navigator. And I just want to switch over and show that to you here in my browser. If you search for Navigator for ArcGIS tutorial and Esri, you'll get a top hit here for the Navigator for ArcGIS. And we've got this fully documented here on how to prepare maps. So if I go to the Prepare Maps tab, thanks, Brent. So Brent's sitting right there, people. Somebody take his computer away from him. We've got all of these documentation here that goes through what a navigation map is and the different ways that you can customize it. And I just wanted to point this out that we have these exercises. So you can add assets to an existing map, and you can customize and load roads. So if I look at the Add Asset Digitized Road here, and I just want to point this out because this is there's a lot of steps. It's kind of a lot to get your head around, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you, but it's kind of hard to keep track of. But you can come back to this and look at the documentation, and we've documented, and we have data that you can use to go through the whole process and see how it works. And if we show a picture here, this will take you through the process of having some power line poles that are sitting out in the field. There's no roads in the data set going to it. And then we go to the next step of being able to actually show you how to digitize your own roads in detail. So the next thing that we want to look to here is just a little example of how to do that. So I've kind of got a little bit of a head start here on the San Diego map. This is my navigation map that I'm actually going to publish. And when you get the StreetMap Premium data set, I should switch over to the catalog view. These are all of the things that come in that project. So you're going to get a custom roads project from Esri that's going to have a map for adding custom streets, and it's going to have two base maps in it, a night base map and a day base map, as well as all the navigation streets. And if we go look at the base map gallery here, it's going to show all the base maps coming from my organization. But we see these base maps here. There's a night one and a day one. So if you have drivers that work at night and you want to make some night maps for them, it's really easy to use the night base map as your template and starting point, and you'll get a dark theme to create your map with. For this demonstration, I'm going to stick with the day here, and I've already added in those layers that we saw, so I go ahead and turn those on, do all the cartography that we would do for this map that we want. And I've got all of this in here, and I've got these trees. Earlier, Joel showed using a compass to get to a specific tree in the park. I'm interested in actually putting in some specific paths to go to those trees. So what I want to do is go over to the Add Custom Streets. And before doing that, I'm going to lock my views, link them in Pro, and this will zoom this map to that same spot. And here we'll see the Add Custom Streets map. It's a lot simpler than the navigation street because it just has that core navigation data that we want to build our network data set from and use. And if we look here, I just have the layers that are pertinent to a network data set plus the world map imagery background for context of seeing what's here. So looking at this data, all the green lines are the routing streets that are part of the Navigator Maps that are out of the box. And if I look at these, I can see the different roads, and I can actually see that they do have some sidewalks in here too in the public spaces. So through this park and even out here on the Embarcadero, they've got the trails in. But they don't have sidewalks in necessarily. They're kind of just assuming that there are sidewalks on either side of roadways. So if you were to use a walking travel mode, it'll just show you the road directions basically as if you were a walker. But what I want to do is I want to put an actual walking path in. So how do I do that in Navigator? Well, I use this Add Custom Streets map, and then I want to edit. So I click on the Edit tab in ArcGIS Pro, and here we see all of our editing tools, and I want to create a feature. So I click Create, and this will give me my editing template showing me the editable layers that are in this map. And in the Custom Roads project, we set up some editing templates to give you a quick start to get going here. And you'll notice within the Custom Streets here on the right, there's some long named things here, but there's Connect Custom Street to a Custom Street and Connect Custom Street to an existing routing street. And anyone in here familiar with network data sets? Couple people. So you guys know that there's rules. Network data sets are all about rules, like how can this feature connect to another feature? Say, just as an example, that you've got two lines that are crossing. Where they cross, should you be able to turn left and right? Well, that all depends. Is that an interstate line that's a freeway and it's a bridge? You don't want to be able to turn off a bridge and go on to another line. So there's all these rules about connectivity and feature connectivity. So with custom streets, we have a very simple model. If you want to attach a custom street to an existing routing street, it needs to be at a vertice on the routing street, and it needs to have a custom override point. And that tells the network data set engine, the way that it's been defined, that you can go from this routing street over to this custom street, this custom line in the map. So when you begin, you just connect using the Connect Custom Street template. If you're connecting custom streets to other custom streets, they simply just need to connect at endpoints. And so we have another template for that. So when you're digitizing along, you just switch between them depending what type of street you're connecting to. In my situation, I'm going to connect to these streets here, and we've got kind of this the harbor drive here, which is a driveway. It's a street, not really a walking path. But I'm just going to, as a starting point, say that, okay, you can walk there, and I'm going to get a walking path connected up to the sidewalks here. So in order to do that, I just use the Connect Custom Street routing street. And this one is defined out of the box to be a road. So paved road with a 40 kilometers per hour speed. And so my sidewalk is paved. My sidewalk doesn't really have a name, so I'm not going to worry about that. But I do want to change this to be 3 kilometers per hour, say, for a speed. And in addition to that, I'm making a walking street. I don't want vehicles to be able to drive on it, so I need to change a few other attributes. And so this is where it quickly becomes, whoa, look at all these attributes. And there's a level of understanding that you kind of need to get once you want to think about what this route is, what can drive on it, and how it behaves in the network data set. And this custom roads street map premium data set is fully documented with all of the network behavior. It's a fairly large document with lots of scenarios and attributes to follow. And too much to cover just in one session here at the UC, but as far as getting a walking route, I'm going to explain a little bit about restrictions, because that seems to be one of the more popular things that people want to do. It's like, I want to keep something from happening on this street or allow something to happen. So if we look through these attributes, we see all the different street names, we see different things about time and value, and we get into this area of FT-RST. And what this is all about is from, to, and to, from. So it's line direction, the direction that the line was digitized. So if you imagine digitizing a line, you have a starting point, and you've got your second one, which is your ending point. And so that first one is your from to, and the second one is the to from point. And one of the things that you can think of is a one-way street. So I digitize a line, and I want to say that you can only travel on the line in the direction it was digitized. So I would set my from to be no restriction. You can go that direction, and the to from would be a restricted. You can't go backwards on that line. And that's how I would set up a one-way. In my case, I want this to be a walking street. So I want to restrict everything that's not walking. And so here I've got pedestrians. That one is not restricted, but everything else in here I want to restrict. So I'd go through and in Pro just set all these other ones to yes within this template. And so you get the idea. Go through, there's a lot of them to set, but I'd restrict all of those. One other one to note is just this restrict through traffic. It's a popular one. So this is one where I have a road that it's okay for my people to drive on it if there's a stop, but I don't want them taking that shortcut if they're not stopping on it, just to make it a shorter route. So this is how you control whether somebody can drive through a neighborhood or has to go around the neighborhood to get to stops. The idea being they can only use that road if they're stopping in the neighborhood. But anyway, once I've set up all of these attributes, I'm ready to digitize. So I come over to the line, I come down into Pro, and I'm going to connect to my routing street. And I hover over it. I want to make sure I snap to it. So I draw out a line, and I just start digitizing in my sidewalk here. And I'll go up this way. Whoops. Get that out of the way. And we'll come in here. I can see that I've got some sidewalks over here. So to do this routing, I'm just going to connect into this existing sidewalk in the data set. I'll just snap to it. And I'll go ahead and finish my sketch. And when I finish that sketch, we'll notice it stays highlighted. But we also see that it's got some blobs there in the end. So let me clear that. We can see that it's automatically added in my custom overrides. So for those of you who have built network data sets before, this new behavior in ArcGIS Pro, the templates actually, as you digitize, will put the vertice down and the custom override as you digitize, where previously you would have to do that as separate edits manually, and that was a bit cumbersome. So this is really nice. So once I've done this, I just save my edits, and then I build the network. And building network is a geoprocessing tool. So open another tool, build network, choose the network in my map, click run. And what this does is it lets the network know about feature classes that have been updated. This process, it knows the dirty areas of the map, so it runs fairly quickly. You can see in the TLC it's got padlocks up on all the feature classes participating in the network. But it'll go through, build this network, and once it's complete, I can then use it. Once it's complete, I can then use it. Tool takes a couple seconds to run, or should take a couple seconds.
So this is actually only going through and rebuilding the dirty areas? Is that right, Mark?
Should be just the dirty areas of the map. And okay, the bar is moving again. All right. All right, so I've got my network built. One of the things that you'll do often is that you'll test this network as you go. So another thing that we'll want to do in Pro, and we do that from the Analysis tab, is we go to the Network Analyst Tools, and we'll go ahead and add in a route layer. And do that quickly here. How are we doing on time, Scott? We're done? Mm-hmm. We've hit the limit? Mm-hmm. Uh-oh.
I think,
well, let me just finish one little section here. So in the routing tools, we get the route layer, and I I want to create a stop on this line, so we'll edit that, go create features, click on stops, put a stop on our existing routing layer and put one on our new layer, then go to our routing tool and we'll run that location. And we'll see that, wow, this thing routed weirdly. It didn't use my street. Do I have an error here? Well, not really an error, just a little bit of an oversight. So I've got this set to driving, and I had set the automobile to be no. So I need to go to walking in my travel mode. I hit walking time. We'll run this again. And now we see that it updates. I can walk in any direction and get to my route. I'm sorry for running over time on this, but it's a lot to do. But this is a process of how to make those maps.
Great, Mark. So at this point, you built your network. You would package it up
Yep.
just like you did the other.
Yeah, so if we switch over to this navigation map, it's referencing that same layer set here. And if I go to my custom streets layer, we can see that line that I just digitized in, turning that on and off. Now it's a sidewalk, so I'd probably just leave that layer off when I publish it, because I really only care about the routing line being drawn. I don't really need to see the sidewalk in my map. But that's up to you. If you have trails, stuff like that, you can leave those turned on in the map. But at this point, you just publish this map, package it,
Yep.
and it's ready to use.
Great. So excellent demonstrations on how you can customize the Esri navigation map or build your own. We went through quite a bit today, right? In summary, Navigator works disconnected. Maps are stored on the device within the app. Navigator comes with maps. And they're available for download, or you can create your own. Mark just showed us how. And remember, there's those three components of a custom navigation map. There's the searching component, the routing component, and the display component. You don't have to do them all. You have the option of perhaps only doing one. Travel modes as well. Mark just showed us how you can model walking, you can model driving, you can model a four-wheel drive vehicle. Up to you if you want to model your specific vehicle types. Navigator not only supports one stop at a time, but multiple stops. It can optimize that stop list for you. It works with the Esri field apps, Explorer, Workforce, Collector, or your own custom app. And that's how you can, and as well integrate it with back office workflows through that URL scheme and the app link that we talked about. The next thing for Navigator, what are we doing next, is this. It's pre-planned routes. So we want to better enable connecting to and leveraging optimization that's done in the back office. So this is what we're going to be working on next, and essentially in Pro, in Network Analyst, in ArcGIS Enterprise, in ArcGIS Online, you have all these tools to create routes, right? Vehicle route problem, optimized route, closest facility. How do I get that optimization into the hands of the field workers? Well, we're going to be able to enable Navigator to connect to a route item that is stored from online, from Pro, from the server network analysis tools. We have quite a few resources for you out there. Get a free trial of Navigator today if you like through the ArcGIS Marketplace listing. We have some case studies that you might be interested in. Help documentation is pretty extensive. I know we showed some of the tutorials that are up there to get started with the custom app creation process. We have a great community on GeoNet that helps answer questions. We'll answer those questions up there as well. And then there's that GitHub repository for that integration link. And feel free to reach out to us as well. Later this week, we're actually repeating this. I'm sorry. We'll do a deep dive in creating custom navigation maps. So if that's of interest to you, we'll dive specifically into that custom map creation process, optimizing field operations, how apps can work together, and sharing routes for field use, and again, all the other ArcGIS field apps, there's detailed sessions on those. With that, I think it concludes our presentation today, and we'd love to hear from you, and if you have questions or feedback.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I think you in the white, yep.
So when you add multiple locators, is it the order in which you added them? Is that how you can prioritize the search so that you're getting the results and best fitting of your data? Or is it just random results?
Right. Yep. I'll take that one. So the question is about multiple locators and the prioritization and how is that considered. So the Create Mobile Map Package tool actually creates a composite locator for you. And so if you have your custom, a composite locator is kind of a hierarchy, an overarching locator that nests individual locators within it. Navigator out of the box contains a composite locator. It first looks for point addresses. If it can't find point addresses, it goes to the street. If it can't find a street address, it goes to, I think, city or zip. So it's kind of hierarchical. And the Create Mobile Map Package tool does that composite for you in the order that you specify, and you can input multiple locators within that tool.
Yeah, so typically, like what you'll do if you want to include that USA locator with it, I would put that last because my tree ID is more important to me than the other information. Another thing to consider as a locator is increase the file size. So if it's not important to my organization, I just don't include the USA one because that can add a lot of overhead to the map.
Other questions? Yep.
So you said that data for North America is updated 3 times a year. Where do those updates originate from?
Yeah, so the data, the North America maps are updated 3 times a year. Where does that data come from? So we process that data. We get it directly from a data vendor here. Here used to be Navtech, right? And so we take the here data and we process it. We make it immediately usable in the software. Other questions? Right there?
Specifically about licensing for Portal or Enterprise. So this looked like it was for named users as opposed to credits.
Yes. So the question is about licensing, and you're right. Navigator consumes 0 credits, and it requires a named user be allocated that license. There's a little checkbox as the administrator of your ArcGIS Online org or your ArcGIS Enterprise org. You assign it to each named user. Yeah.
What did you use to build the QR code?
I just use.
So repeat the question.
The question was, what did I use to build the QR codes? And I just went online and found it was like qrcodemonkey.com or something like that. But there's many different ones you can find out there that will work for you. I can show you that after if you'd like.
Joel, don't you have a sample in our repo generating QR codes too?
I do. That's a good point, Brent. So if you go to that GitHub repository that you showed you, I think it's github.com/Esri/Navigator integration. There's actually a Python script in there that I have that will spit out QR codes based on the values you give it. And that can be in the form of like a CSV file, or you can just like do one at a time. Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? That's it. We're here. If you're too shy to do it publicly.
Yep. Feel free to come by the apps booth downstairs as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a good conference.
Thank you.